Yes, a pit stop at the graveyard. We have a new tombstone that has been added. Maybe we'll take the creative liberty next week to put 9 up there instead because he has become the laughing stock of the league.
Biggest meme in a while.
Sanders, I don't know how much you've been on NFL Twitter because you got college football Twitter for the most part.
Yeah.
But have you seen? I've lost count. I think I've seen every single team have J.J. McCarthy and the one where he was like not his head.
Yeah, and
is
growling
this aura?
or whatever. And they've
Every
changed his
single
jersey.
team has changed the jersey to whoever the quarterback is. I think I've seen every single team this weekend, especially every team that's lost. Not Bryce Young because he actually cooked. Matthew Stafford, when it's time to play the Carolina Panthers and it's 9, but it's Matthew Stafford as 9 because he is 9.
I have not seen all those.
It has been it's been incredible, and they've been the laughing stock of the league. That quarterback is the laughing stock of the league, and of course they put up a fabulous showing against the Seattle Seahawks, where Max Brosmer threw 4 picks, including one of the worst picks of the season.
It was Will Levis-esque.
Yeah,
but not the worst.
there was that was one of the top replies. Actually, was the Colin Cowherd. It's all good. LeBron. Ben Simmons is here.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's all good. Will Levis, Max Brosmer is here. Was one of the top replies. Minnesota's in the graveyard, and they are officially dead. I will say before we leave the graveyard, there are rumblings from the shaman of removing one of these teams from the graveyard and unearthing and zombie-esque coming out of their tomb and rejoining the pyramid, and that will be dependent on a result this Sunday. There was a shocking result on Thanksgiving that we did not expect here at the pyramid headquarters, and if it happens again, then I think we will have no choice but to remove them from the graveyard and put them back on the pyramid. But for the meantime, continue to bet this team plus the points because it worked out well for us last week. Last week, the pyramid was 5-2 straight up with bets among just pyramid teams, but it had a tough week with the graveyard teams. Graveyard versus non-graveyard was 2-5, but graveyard versus graveyard was 2-0. And a reminder, when betting graveyard versus non-graveyard, we take the graveyard team plus the points because it's the NFL, and we think that any given Sunday, something can happen.
How did that go last week?
2-5 last week, but so far this season, it is 17-15-1. 2 games positive with 1 push. Last week, graveyard versus graveyard, there were 2 of those matchups last week. Those 2 matchups being New Orleans and the Miami Dolphins. New Orleans covered the 6-point spread. And the Falcons and the Jets. The Falcons were somehow favored against the Jets. I can't explain it. And the Falcons falconed, and they lost to the New York Jets on a game-winning field goal by Nick Folk. And so that went 2-0 last week. And so now the pyramid as a total, if you add on the graveyard, is 86-76 with 1 push for 53.09%. That is 1% off a profitable model. And so now we head to the pyramid this week, and we will start with Tier 6. On Tier 6 are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They remain on the pyramid somehow. I really actually considered taking them to the teams left off, but I am going to leave them on for the foreseeable future. I still think that defense and Mike Tomlin raises that bar well enough, and I really like the spread that the pyramid has put out for the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers game this weekend. So I'm going to keep them where they are. San Francisco stays where they are as well. Tampa Bay, they were on top of the pyramid at one point, and they are still on the bottom of the pyramid right now. They're not in any danger of being removed from the pyramid, I'd argue. But they are somehow on the same tier as the Carolina Panthers, and that is shocking. Carolina has rejoined the pyramid. I have no choice but to add them back. And Sanders asked in the chat, He had not seen the game. He was doing the women's basketball game, but he asked, with Carolina's win, do I have to offer an apology for leaving them off the pyramid? And the answer is no, because the pyramid was right last week. Yes, the Rams were the top team on the pyramid, and Carolina was left off. But we had Carolina plus 9.5, and the spread closed at Carolina plus 10. Half of a point difference, but it's enough to lean one way, and we got it right, even with Carolina winning. It was one of our 5 wins last week. So I'm not apologizing because the pyramid was right. And we'll see if the pyramid is right this week with Carolina's game. On to Tier 5. Jacksonville's there as well. Nothing much to say about them. They beat the Titans. This is where we have some actual big movements and some kind of shocking movements. The Detroit Lions will stay here at Tier 5, even with their loss to Green Bay. But Indianapolis, I have no choice but to drop them after losing 3 of their last 4 games, with their one win being an overtime win in Berlin against the Falcons when the Falcons falconed. It's not a good showing whatsoever. This is why they were ranked correct going into the Kansas City Chiefs game when we were being asked by one that actually lives in this house that we're in right now, why the Indianapolis Colts aren't getting more respect on the pyramid. But they have shown why with the showing in the past 3 weeks. Jonathan Taylor, as Chromie is saying in the chat, was nullified, and he had 86 rushing yards. He had 61 against the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. So Indianapolis has dropped all the way down to Tier 5, only dropping 1 tier. But they are sitting here now with Detroit, Indianapolis, the Chargers as well, who had what would you classify the game as? Impressive or moderate or disappointing, Sanders? Chargers win over the Raiders.
Moderate is the Raiders.
Okay. I agree. That's why the Chargers have not moved up or moved down. Dallas, though, has raised their bar, and they have joined Tier 5. I really wanted to move them higher. They haven't moved from last week, but I really did want to move them higher. It was just really hard to do so. I think if they have a good showing against Detroit this week, then maybe we have some differences there. Baltimore has to drop. They have been awful offensively in the past 4 weeks. Lamar Jackson has 1 touchdown, 5 turnovers. They're terrible offensively. They were showing up defensively until last week against apparently their kryptonite and Joe Burrow, because that dude cooks them every time he plays them. They are on Tier 5. They were on Tier 3 last week. They've dropped 2 tiers after that performance, and that is why this shaman is talking to me about a graveyard team. We'll move to Tier 4. On Tier 4, the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans have joined Tier 4, making massive movements. These are teams that have kind of been on the bottom of the pyramid all season long. No one has really made the big move. But with the way the Houston Texans have shown defensively and then turned it around offensively, and then the Bears just going out there and winning games in dominant fashion, especially on Friday against Philly, and then being clutch, I have no choice but to move both of these teams up to Tier 4. And it is kind of shocking. You wouldn't think this, but for a 10-2 Broncos team and Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs, I feel like Chicago and Houston are right there on their level, and that's why this Tier 4, I think, looks really, really good with the 4 teams here. You have fraudulent Denver, Kansas City, who is a good team, not a great team, Houston, who has elite defense, but questions still offensively, and the Chicago, are they fraudulent just as much as Denver? The pyramid seems to think they're right there on the same page, and so those are the teams on Tier 4, replacing the Colts and Baltimore, who both moved down. We move now to Tier 3. And on Tier 3, we have the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Green Bay Packers, who have moved up after their impressive performance on Thanksgiving. Philly stays where they're at. And I think they stay where they're at, for me personally, because I'm going to continue to have trust from a model perspective, from a pyramid perspective. If I just look at it analytically, they actually haven't been as bad analytically, statistically, as they have looked with your own eyeballs. They have looked terrible with your own eyeballs, but statistically, they haven't looked that bad. And so me personally, I don't feel like moving them down yet until they start looking really, really bad statistically. The only one that really, there's two stats that really pop out to you, but I'll give the counter to those two stats. The first stat is they lead the league in 3-and-out percentage is terrible. And then the other stat is going into last week, they were tied with the Tennessee Titans for the most scoreless halves in the NFL. Tennessee had a scoreless half, sadly, against Jacksonville, so they're no longer tied. But those are two ones that pop out right to you immediately. But the counter is they have elite talent pretty much everywhere. They've had amazing offensive performances, but really elite defensive performances that are going to carry them. They've won games scoring 16 points and 10 points. So Philly stays where they're at, and Buffalo also will stay where they're at. And we'll move to Tier 2, where we have no movement as well. New England and Seattle stay where they're at. New England beating the Giants and beating the brakes off of the Giants. Jackson Dart, look, I don't like you, but protect yourself, bro. I don't want to see anyone just die for no reason. He refused to do that again. I won't be shocked if Jameis ends up playing next week because of that. He's got to learn how to protect himself. If you're going to have the high ceiling moments, protect yourself. Because for him, it's not like with Cam Newton, which Cam Newton talked a ton about him this week, Jackson Dart, on First Take, which no one watches First Take, so this is the first time anyone's heard that this was actually being talked about. But Cam was talking about Jackson Dart and telling about that how he needs to get down and protect himself. People could counter to that as, oh, Cam didn't really protect himself. But Cam didn't need to protect himself because he was 6'5" and he just ran over people. Jackson Dart is not that. He can't run over people. And he needs to protect himself. He's smaller than a lot of the guys he's trying to run over and a lot of the guys he's trying to spear with his helmet. So protect yourself, bro. You're insane. That's completely off track because it has nothing to do with these two teams here. New England and Seattle, who have been really, really damn good all season except for a few moments. New England lost to the Raiders, guys. Let's not forget that. Yes, I know it was week 1. And then Seattle, the Sam Darnold pumpkin game, the 4 picks against the Rams still is sitting there in the back of your mind, which is why the Rams are still at top of the pyramid on Tier 1, even after their shocking loss to the Panthers fans. And I put that in air quotes because Panthers fans weren't shocked. They're not shocked by that performance at all. And look, there are things that lead to the reason that happened. 1 p.m. kickoff, 10 a.m. body clock kick. I keep messing it up every single week. Rams had 3 turnovers. Panthers had 0. Rams also spotted them a pick 6. And, of course, the Panthers were elite on the 4th down, 3 for 3, including the game-winning touchdown. That's not sustainable. And so I don't think the performance for the Rams, who only attempted 5 third downs in the game, in a game in which they were trailing in certain points, 5 third downs, they were moving the ball however they wanted. They just turned the ball over. I don't think that's going to continue to happen because Stafford had only had 2 picks coming into the season, or coming into the game, I should say. And then, not his fault, but the NFL posted a clip of him warming up, and they put in all caps 9, period. They cursed him. He was cursed.
That's crazy.
The 9 curse got to Stafford, and that's why he had a
It
bad
happens.
game.
It gets to everyone.
So I don't expect that to continue to happen. So the Rams are going to stay at the top of the pyramid.
Sure.
And that is this week's pyramid. And I will tell you, like I said, bet Dallas +3. We agree with the totem pole here. The pyramid does.
Yep.
Give us Dallas
Happy
+3.
doing business with you. Pleasure doing business with you.
And we'll see more of the bets on Thursday's show.